If you've been around for at least a moment in the Pokemon community, there's a good chance that you have also heard about the fanbase and their own Pokemon game creations, almost as long as the game franchise itself. Though, when I gave it some extra thought, a question came to my mind. How long has this been going on for? While going deeper and deeper, I came across not only one of the oldest Pokemon ROMs ever, but also one that many directly or passingly have seen before, especially with the likes of its bootleg cartridges and infamous screenshots. Now, you may be thinking why I'm bringing this up. Just like with many beloved timeless things these days, what could be a better idea than remaking and giving Pokemon Chaos Black a second wind in the modern era? So, just like how I've been doing it for 3 episodes now, I'll be taking a batch of fakemon designs from the game, analyze them and their data from the game, then just like the title suggests, I'll give them a fresh coat of paint. But before we do that, what about the game itself? Developed by a person that goes by the name of Mewthree Inc., Pokemon Chaos Black was first made public sometime in 2004. Featuring the smallest roster of fakemon yet, Chaos Black gives us the opportunity to use 60 plus new designs, even though most of them have their own special little quirks attached to them. When it comes to the game's story and other features, the story is only a slight tweak at most, though intentionally due to the dev going for a definitive edition approach for Fire Red Leaf Green, the same thing that Emerald was to Ruby and Sapphire, hence explaining the ROM's title theming. But hey, at least you get to see goofy shinies much more with a 1 out of 100 shiny rate. Like many already know, or even solely remember this ROM hack by, the mascot on the game's box art is pretty much a 1-to-1 replica of Sonic the Hedgehog's character Chaos, even though it itself never appears anywhere in the game, nor being even as much as somewhere in the game's code. Actually, speaking of the code, the game has also been quite infamous thanks to many bugs and glitches, which arose due to the game being shoddily coded, even being bad enough to a point that it was impossible to get past Mount Moon without using cheats. Though a good while later, a fan released a version which fixed such issues. Since this point up to the present, Chaos Black has remained as a memory of a glitchy, frustrating game. Though I think it's time to finally revisit it and give at least some of the game's fan-made Pokemon designs a second shot. Finally reaching the designs themselves, what's a better way to start this than by beginning with a starter? I mean, that's why they are literally called that, right? Oh, and here I thought BDSP was the worst recent thing. Moving on from wallowing in one common Pokemon fan's misery, let's see what the correctly named starter has to offer for us. Being the final stage in its line after Flayon and Manleon, Furyon comes at us with a surprisingly niche type combo, then follows that up with quite peculiar stats. Wait a minute. Do just reuse Typhlosion's stats? Oh man, that's not cool. Huh. In a weird way, that's actually kind of cool. And Game Freak did do that also themselves, so fine, you get a pity pass. Though let me tell ya, when it comes to the sprites for these guys, barely 3 of today's 5 have custom back sprites and 0 custom icons. And if that wasn't bad enough for me, a nice little extra bitch slap is that not a single one has a custom dex entry either. Well, I think one had a custom dex category name, so it ain't that bad. Fuck this. Let's just see what I eventually cooked up. Despite it having almost no visual resemblance, Furyon has recently been discovered to have closely matching genetics with the likes of the Charizard and Typhlosion families. Starting simple, but with even more ridiculous upcoming designs, will come more goofy entries as well. Though for now, let's try to actually make it special, and do the thing I'm actually somewhat good at. Learning that thankfully not all of my brain cells have dusted away, I quickly assess that the design is meant to be a bipedal lion. Deciding to lean into the claws enhanced by being imbued with rocks aspect, I go for a design that min-maxes all of its other elements to put the most in its claws, aka having a lighter body so that overall mobility is not reduced as much. And since I decided to stay with the stat spread that's been around more than your mom at this point, haha, got him, I remember to embrace the higher special attack stat with imposing flames that could act as a stable plan B for battles. Late game spriting shenanigans later, let me introduce you to the glow up that was due for 20 years. And if that isn't cool enough already, I also made a fresh new icon and back sprite off screen to act as a nice little surprise for you still watching. Heck, I'll do one better. Here's also the shiny. As for why it looks a little bit off, I thought it would be kind of cool to reference their glitchy origins by using a palette that's similar to the original. And if that still wasn't cool enough, with the groundwork now set, let's start building up quicker and get to see even more cool designs like... If you've seen any of my previous episodes, you may already know that I like to pick one random pick for the batch of ones I'll remake. Though when I was flashbanged with core memories being unlocked, and getting to see this caked up rock in the crossfire, I knew what I was picking next. So, made the design with upcoming funny facts about it, taking a little bit of time until eventually learning it's a replacement of Cloyster in all ways besides the botched sprites. Soon after, I come to learn that this meme-worthy design actually has a reason for its rough, trimmed-looking sprite. While diving in the game's code, I continuously came across errors when I got to the section that held Graag. Upon investigating deeper, I learned that when the devs got to adding it in, they somehow botched the process and ended up putting in a sprite sheet that had no front sprite. So when the ROM adjusted itself, the back sprite ended up shifting to the front slot as a default. In result, getting this scuffed masterpiece. If you thought this is the craziest origin story ever for a fakemon, just wait how stupid it gets later. On a different note, Graag's stats are a bit more than copied from Cloister, but by this point, it shouldn't be a surprise. So of course, I took some liberties and made it more unique to Graag, while keeping the total within plausible numbers. And now with just a dex entry left, let's remove the last remaining hints of Cloister and give Graag something unique. Constantly dealing with growing rock pains, Graag spend most of their time trying to find objects that can help them shave off the slowly crushing rocks. It's suggested that Graag trainers should seek out Cloisters due to their tough shells, which get the job done. Like I said, this dude was mostly Cloister before, so why not reference its history with an entry like this? And to keep it interesting, I'll do it for the rest that have similar origins as well, just like with Furyon as well. But for now, let's continue on with improvements to the thing that gives it uniqueness. Now that we've gotten a more creative dex entry that definitely was not made after the sprite, we got something more that we can use to create a better redesign. Doubling down on the back sprite being the front instead for the memes, I also keep elements that retain the armadillo-like vibes which I got from the original. Following that, I turn Armadillo's armor into the growing rock focused element for the design that will give Graag its hunched over look as an extra explanation. After some slight adjustments that could make it match its stats more, we can now get a chance to see our caked up pal in a new light from multiple angles, even when it comes to the shiny. But even with all of this, we can't forget about... Ah yes, now that's much better. But before I tell you about it, let me tell you about this video's sponsor, my Patreon page. Cheesy, I know, but any type of support helps. If you enjoy my videos and want to support me while getting something out of it, be sure to visit my page where you can get things like direct downloads to my work, advice and help for making your own stuff, while also getting free stuff from me every month. Of course, there's much more stuff included, but even just a slight peek means a lot. But with that being said, let's dive right back in. If you didn't get the chance to vote or know about it, this chapter's remake contender was decided by you, the viewers. Though, if I knew how mysterious and empty this Fakemon would have been earlier, we wouldn't be discussing it currently. But then again, the hack itself is buggy as fuck, so don't mind me. Though as for what I meant with the empty comment about this guy, you would think that the fella that you'd use as the first face you see in the game would at least make an appearance in the ROM, right? I'm sure you can guess the answer, but in reality, it's actually much worse. Turns out, not only you can't find it anywhere, but it doesn't even exist past the title screen. Like, it doesn't even have a name, for crying out loud. Now, I know the guy on the box art is based on Chaos from Sonic, but that doesn't explain this edgelord design for dummies, unless I'm missing something. So instead of remaking it, technically I'm just making and adding a whole new fakemon that's just based on a semi-scrap design, and yeah, that just makes this video that much more unique. Oh, and I guess I have to give it a name, stats and other stuff as well. So, why wait? When it comes to the name, the absurd nature of this situation and the overall quality of the ROM as a whole just makes ironically, or maybe even unironically, naming it Title Guy feel so correct. Basing on how edgy the devs were probably planning to make it, I based the typing and stats around that thought with a pinch of actual logistics. As for the rest, pause and take a peek at what I made for the new guy when adding him in. Though what I did do for the Pokédex entry, Title Guy lashes out against anything it can. Its reasoning is unknown, though it's believed to be due to going unnoticed for 20 years, even though its population has been healthy. Due to this, the term Entite Guide has become popular to describe salty attention seekers. Went for something goofy, got an ironic masterpiece instead. But before anyone thinks I tried, it's time to actually try. Having the least amount of material to work with yet, I let my creative juices flow with spurs of multiple shapes until one eventually clicks. With a rough shape now in mind, I transfer all of the original's key aspects to the new body and work from there with more Pokemon-like colors, shading and spriting until being satisfied enough with the result, closing off with animating that you'll see soon enough. At the very least, we can now say that the design actually exists. But what is a fakemon without its icon and backsprite as well? So don't mind me showing you these exact sprites as well. Also, what's a Pokemon without its shiny that's based on its glitchy, buggy past? And before we run out of steam, Oh yeah, we definitely peaked with this chapter and its shenanigans. Though, why not stay up here a bit longer? Okay, maybe I spoke a bit too soon, but let's make this work with a quick interesting fact as the intro. While diving into the ROM to conduct some research, I discovered that the early bug routes fakemon Charizard, which evolves into this chapter's main star Shicoon, is actually a part of a 3-stage line. Well, at least it was intended to be, but the design never got finalized, having Pidgeot be left as the placeholder for the evolution. Though, if you look at its Kakuna-inspired design and honestly piss poor stats, I'm sure it was somewhat obvious. So, taking this into consideration, I adjusted its stats and took to mind these facts for the redesigning stage when creating the new sprites. I could have made the final stage myself, but at least we have something prepped for a Chaos Black Part 2 if it happens. Besides other small things like the ability, we also have the beloved non-existing turned into an existing Dex entry. awaiting its metamorphosis stage to eventually be over, Shicoon bide their time preparing for their true form to appear. Despite their instincts being so set on this expectation, none have actually achieved evolution. Now, let's slide over to the other end of this escapade. Remaining with a mentality that this is the final stage for now, I take what works in the original sprite, then mash that up with new or enhanced elements that make the original's ideas work better in this new lighting. While, of course, simply just refining it as a whole in the Gen 5 style gives it a better shot at looking more imposing and cleaner, giving it also segments in the cocoon that seem like they are on the cusp of bursting due to all the pent-up energy within the shell. I close this off with the animation process, in which I give it stiff and rigid movements, like you would expect from a developing encased bug. So Kakuna who? Well, actually Kakuna does have it beat in the Gen 5 sprite department, but not for long. In the meantime, we can now see cool stuff like the icon that this time is actually unique to it, while also looking quite caked up from the back, goddamn. As for the shiny, I just did the same thing as with the rest, but enough of that. It's time to actually outperform Kakuna. Yeah, it's pretty cool, alright, Kakuna Matata, or whatever. Though, do you remember how I said we hit peak before? Yeah, I lied, because nothing can beat being none other than the #1 design that everyone pointed to for being the most infamous Pokemon hoax back in the young internet days. Mewthree is easily the most recognizable and memorable thing from this hack, besides its reputation and box art itself. So it would have been quite ridiculous of me to not include it in this video. Since it's a legendary, of course, it would also have a legendary stat spread, which we can see here, though it's not as it seems. Yup, just like the rest, Mewthree just uses Moltres' 580 stat total, but before I go further, why the hell are there legendaries that have stats below 600? Like, there are Pokemon that have 600, yet are called pseudo-legendaries. But when it comes to other Pokemon that have 580 or more, they're just some common bitch because they don't stand waiting all day in a spot while waiting for a 10-year-old. Double standards? Not in my children-based demographic Game Freak. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah. For your chicken stats. But now back to more big burly man-like topics. I decided to take Mewtwo's stat spread and tinker with it to create an upgraded version, while not going too overboard with increases and limiting myself to just a total increase of 40. As for something that I did go a bit too overboard with, believed to be nothing more than an old ruse, Mewthree is said to be a higher form of the already elusive Mewtwo. There are rumors that claim this form is achieved only when a Mewtwo that's mastered the move Psych Up absorbs the powers of the legendary birds. Well, usually you could make a joke about it being a mischievous Pokemon, but instead, I'll just ask you to rate the entries Well, I get onto turning this rumor into a fact. Immediately identifying what makes the original Mewthree unique in comparison to Mewtwo, I go for the obvious inspiration for the demeanor. Adjust the proportions that Mewtwo has, then go all out with the rest by applying changes to its body patterns, shoulder pads, tail, and the rest with mixes between the original Mewthree's unique aspects and what could be modern interpretations for those exact things, ending up with a result that's easily one of my best works yet. Of course, that also applies for the back, icon, and shiny sprites as well. But when it comes to the mentioned demeanor, it shows up the most when we look at With such a strong finish, we can now conclude this video and check off Pokemon Chaos Black from the list of remakeable ROMs. Let me know if you want more by commenting, follow me on Twitter for sneak peeks, but otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for making my day. See ya!